What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be answering questions that were submitted by members of the channel. I just recently put out a post on the members only section asking if anybody has any questions or things they want to know about the Shedcade or even me that I don't normally show or talk about on the channel. And I actually got about 4 questions right away, so I'm going to go ahead and answer those in video form rather than just replying to them separately. This video is going to release early to members because they're the ones who asked the questions, and then of course it's going to go out to you guys who may not be a member who are watching it now. The first question I have is from JAS Cadet or JAS Cadet. I'm not sure which one. He says, you may have talked about this at some point, but I can't remember. When you're not in the Shedcade, do you power off the cabs or do you just keep them on all the time? Or do you just turn off the screens? Do you have a quick way to power on or off everything? This is actually a really good set of questions that I've never really talked, I don't think, too much about on the channel. I may have mentioned a few things here and there, but I've never made a video on this, and I might actually make a dedicated one someday. But for now, we'll just keep it kind of quick. When I'm not in here, even sometimes when I am in here, as you can see, these things are off. If I'm not going to be playing them, I usually leave them off just because they do eat a decent amount of electricity. They have a finite life, or the parts do at least, and I don't want to speed up the time that it may take for them to fail on me. Especially the CRT monitors, they do require some maintenance to keep running. I mean, once you get them in a good working condition, they'll likely run for years without a problem, especially in home use. But I still try to limit the amount of time they're on when I'm not using them. That said, usually when I come out here to play games, every one of them is on whether I'm going to play them or not. I can only play one game at a time. Believe me, I've tried playing 2 at once. It doesn't really work out, but I do leave them on anyway. So for the 2 or 3 hours that I'm out here, I just leave them all on and I get to each one as I want to play it. It's just nice to have all the sounds going. It really feels like you're in an arcade, which is kind of what we're all going for at home, of course. Now, as far as can I just turn off the monitor but leave everything else in the cabinet on, that's an interesting idea that I never really thought about, and I'm sure it's possible if you hack up the wiring in the cabinet, add a separate switch maybe like on top of them. But no, I've never done that. I'm sure it's possible. I probably would never do that because I like to keep them as close to a factory original as possible, and I don't want to go cutting up a bunch of wires inside. Now for the last part of his question, do I have a quick way to power everything on and off? And the answer is yes, I do. When I was building the Shedcade, my plan was to just go to this breaker panel, which has, I think, 6, maybe 8 breakers. I can't even remember what's in there. I can't reach it at the moment. And I would just flip those is what I was going to do, because when I worked at an arcade, that's how we turned everything off and on. We flipped all the breakers on the panel. When I did work at another arcade, we had one single light switch. So you would literally go over here. Now, of course, I don't have normal light switches, but you would just flip a switch and turn on about 140 games all at once. And if you flip the light switch off, all of them shut off at once. It was great until the new employee would come in, because it was right inside the door of the office, and they would say, oh, let me mess with the lights and have a good time. And they turned the entire arcade off and on, and people were mad, and we always had to refund a bunch of games. So part of me liked that idea, and then I realized I want to be able to maybe turn them on individually. If I just want to come in and do a video about Killer Instinct, I want to be able to just turn that cabinet on. So I had a different idea. And what came of it was using these smart power plugs, I guess? Yeah, I don't know why I'm blanking on this. These are Kasa smart plugs. I've never used their products before. I did not want any that worked with Apple HomeKit, which I do have a lot of HomeKit stuff. Like pretty much my whole house is able to turn off and on with your voice, which is nice. But Siri is kind of an idiot sometimes, and she will randomly hear what she wants to. And I did not want her turning on my arcade games if she heard something and I was unaware they just all of a sudden turned on. So I went with these that are not capable of talking to HomeKit. These are just have their own app, and I can go in and turn them on individually. I will try and make a video screenshot, I guess, or not a screenshot, maybe a video recording of my phone where I just turn them on individually. It's quite nice. Now I can, of course, go over here, sorry the lighting's bad, and push this button, which will turn them on manually, but I can't reach most of them because most of them are actually hidden behind the machines. There's not one back there. Where is it? Yeah, there's a couple hidden back here. So I can't physically access them, and actually flipping the switch to turn these on manually is tough because I've added shelves and the switch is right back there underneath the shelf. I can reach it, but I'm not super tall and it's very hard to reach them. I can't, for example, cannot reach the power switch on Hydro Thunder. It's too far back there. When I am done playing in here and all the machines are running, I do go in the app, I press a single button, which is an automation, and it will turn off everything in here except for my little camera over here. And I like that camera because I can take a peek in the Shedcade when I'm not here, and that will let me make sure nothing has gone wrong in the Shedcade or whatever. It also records motion and lets me know if something does move in here. So the next question comes from Rhino, or as I call him, Rhino, because I'm not sure how to say the rest of his name, but he asks, I'm curious what the power bill is for the Shedcade. I'm assuming it's on a separate meter. Well, Mr. Rhino, it's actually not on a separate meter. I would really like it if it was, but it would probably cost me more money. We were able to just tie it into my existing main panel on the house. We dug the huge trench, which went from the corner of the Shedcade here all the way down the side of my house and to the main panel. I actually had to upgrade the main panel on my house when we were building the Shedcade, which was pretty expensive. But the reason was my main panel was capable of 125 amps, and I really wanted to go up to 200 amp service. The biggest problem really was there was no room left on the panel to expand with another big breaker to run the whole Shedcade. I don't have a separate meter, and you would be surprised to know that this really hasn't changed my electric bill much. And I think the reason for that is it's not on all of the time. It's on maybe, I think on average, I think the games run probably 20 hours, maybe to 24 hours a month. They really don't run that much. The app that my power company lets me use to see my daily usage and hourly usage, I can see a difference. When the machines are running, there's definitely a rise in power usage, and when they're off, it drops back down. I have done a whole video on this, and I wish I could have gone into more detail in the video, but at the time it was kind of difficult to figure all this stuff out. I'll try to remember to link to that video in the description. But ultimately what we found from that video was basically air conditioning and, funny enough, laundry takes the most power. It blows the arcade games out of the water. Now, if these were running 24 hours a day or at least 10 hours a day, yes, they would be a big expense. But with the little bit of use they get, it's not that big a deal. Really, air conditioning, since I live in South Texas, that's the big draw of electricity for me. That is probably half or more of my bill every single month. Now, I will say this, just 2 days ago, I came out here and played some games. This was a really good test to see how much power the games themselves use, because we had a cool day, not cool enough to run heat and not warm enough to run air conditioning. So all the air conditioners were off, including the one in the Shedcade. I came out, I turned just the games on, the TVs and stuff were on, a few lights and stuff. There was a rise, and I was able to capture it on the app, and I'll show you guys somewhere here. It's probably, from what I can tell, it changes my bill, or it changes the usage by about a kilowatt hour to a kilowatt hour and a half just for the machines themselves. Now, once I start adding the air conditioning running out here, it really starts to go up a little bit more, especially since the games let off a lot of heat themselves. They start to heat up the Shedcade, the air conditioning runs a lot more, and I have noticed that, especially if I'm out here for 3 hours, the air conditioning will be cranking by the end of the 3-hour period because the machines have let off a ton of heat, the air conditioning's trying to keep up, and usually it's hot outside. It doesn't change my electric bill that much. If anything, adding the air conditioner, which does run 24 hours a day in the summertime, is probably costing me more than the games total. And our next question comes from Pax by Sonica. Just a random question, really. When you were younger, maybe in your teens, after you had experience playing in the arcade, what was the first arcade machine you wish that you could have at your home? The one arcade game that you always went to first when you could visit an arcade. In Pax's case, it was UMK3 when he was 13. By far my favorite arcade when I was younger. So for me, I would say, I really had to think hard about this. My knee-jerk answer is, of course, Killer Instinct. I saw that machine and thought, this would be the coolest thing ever if I could own that. But before that, Mortal Kombat 1 blew me away. Mortal Kombat 2 blew me away. Now, I started thinking about it today while I was out working. I was driving around and thinking, like, you know what, ultimately, I bet the answer is Killer Instinct, just because the idea of being 9 years old and assuming I could have something as large as a Mortal Kombat cabinet at my house seemed completely unrealistic. And I'll even say the Killer Instinct seemed completely unrealistic. I just sort of knew, looking at them, that this is probably never going to happen. I'm either going to have to be a millionaire, or there was no other option in my mind. You had to be a millionaire, you had to have a mansion, you had to go to your parents and be like, hey, I want this, and they'd say, no problem, tally-ho, whatever they say when you're rich, and put this thing in your house. I didn't even know where you could buy them. When I was older and I worked at an arcade, I found out there was a place in town that sold arcade games, and I was like 17 at the time, and I wanted to go. I was like, let's go check it out, but nobody wanted to go. You kind of had to be an industry person to get in, I think, and I never got to even get past the dream state of owning one. And even took until I was doing this channel really to make this thing even somewhat realistic. And to be honest, when I bought it, I was thinking maybe I'll buy it, I'll keep it for a little, and probably just sell it because I can't play it in the garage. And then the Shedcade happened, and then the whole world opened up to me. YouTube happened, of course, which helped fund all of this and helped give me the confidence to buy it. So that was awesome. But before that, I think the answer is Killer Instinct, even though I knew deep down this will never happen, which I'm so happy it did. But I knew that at the time it was never going to happen. I'm never going to be a millionaire probably, and I'm never going to be able to buy one of these things. But I got one, and I'm not a millionaire, which is fine. I'm still happy I have the Killer Instinct cabinet. All right, our next and last question is from Genova. Genova says, yeah, like what are... Genova says, yeah, like what arcade are you building or buying next? Yes, I read that exactly as it was typed, and I've had a fun time doing it. Thank you, Genova. So this is a good question that I don't have a great answer for. I'm kind of just, at the time, I kind of have everything I really, really want. Anything I get beyond this is going to be like a little cherry on top of an already amazing cake or something. Now that said, I am an arcade fan, and if you guys are arcade collectors or real arcade buyers, you know what you have is never enough. You always want something new. You always want a new project. I swear part of being an arcade owner is just wanting to fix something up and wanting to work on the next one and wanting that process of finding, picking it up, getting it home, assessing what it needs, fixing it up, and then getting the rewarding process of putting it in with your collection and just getting to enjoy it. But all that said, I don't have anything on my list that is like, I must have this cabinet. There's cabinets I want, that's for sure. But nothing is like, I must own this that I don't already have, thankfully. I'm also out of room in the Shedcade unless I get rid of one, and the only one I'd consider getting rid of at the moment is Target Terror, and that's going to wait until I can ensure that I can play a home version of it or an emulated version of it on the MAME cabinet, which is probably going to happen here in the next couple of months, I hope. We'll see. But I don't want to get rid of it yet. I may not actually sell it anyway. I may put it in storage and keep it. The whole plan is to eventually move to another house. This could take well over a year from now because of a number of reasons. But I don't know when, where, or if it's going to happen. And when I do move, I want to build a separate building that is not a shed. I like the Shedcade, but there's several things I would do differently. I want to build a separate building that's larger that would allow me to have more machines, more room, and room to expand, which will be great. So to answer your question, recently I came very close to picking up a San Francisco Rush 2049. It is the sequel to San Francisco Rush Alcatraz Edition. It's actually quite different, or it looks a lot different. The cabinet looks a lot different. It's a big cabinet. It's wider than most racing cabinets by a couple of inches, which kind of sucks because I can't fit it in here as it is, and adding something that's extra wide is going to be a problem. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do it, but we'll see. Actually, the one I was looking at sold. It was down to $350 and it was gone, of course. You're never going to get them that cheap, so I knew I was probably screwed on that one. The other one is there was an NFL Blitz cabinet, a two-player original Blitz. It's still for sale nearby me for $600. The monitor is not working. I figured I could probably work them down to about $500 to $450, especially if I throw some technical jargon at them, like, look here, I'm going to have to spend $150 to $200 on a flyback, on a cap kit, maybe a new HOT. I'll start throwing out stuff that I pretend like I know what I'm saying. I kind of do, but not really. Thanks, Mike's Amateur Arcade Monitor Repair Channel, for giving me all the terms to say to these people. But if you throw all the words at them that they don't know, they're probably going to be like, this guy knows what's up. Let's give it to him cheaper. That's just my theory. I've never actually tested it. I don't know what I'll do with it. I could buy it and put it in the garage. I could fix it up. I could swap it in and out with one of these machines that's in here, but it's kind of a hassle. And I have Blitz running on the main cabinet right here. So I think what I'll do for now is just keep an eye out. If something good comes up, I'll probably buy it. I'll probably keep it in the garage, enjoy it for a little bit. There is a solid chance I'm going to have to sell my jet skis because the lake, our beautiful Canyon Lake, is dwindling away. Every day it drops more and more. It's at well beyond historic lows. There's not a single boat ramp open. So if I sell the jet skis, which will get me probably about 8,000-9,000 since they're a little bit older now. If I sell those, get a bunch of extra cash, get them out of the way, I can buy a bunch of machines, store them in the garage, possibly indefinitely until I move, and then I can fill in my new game room with those. And even if they're just in the garage, I could still, do videos on them. I could still have fun with them in there. So that would be cool. Now, one more cabinet that I do really want, that I don't know if I'll ever get because it's very expensive, is H2 Overdrive. It is the direct sequel to Hydro Thunder. I love Hydro Thunder. You guys know that. It's right back there. I love it so much, and it's actually a really good sequel. It's a modern arcade game that I never got to experience until later, but it's really fun. I've played it on emulation. It's fun, but the sit-down cabinet is so much better. Okay, so that's all for this video, but I may do this in the future. If you enjoyed getting an extra little bit behind the scenes or getting more information than I can normally give on a regular video or live stream, let me know in the comments, because I will maybe do it 1 month or once a month or roughly once every month. I'll probably only put the question out to members just so I don't have a flood of questions and I don't feel like I need to answer every single one. So I'll put it up for members, and members can get first dibs on it. If I'm not getting anything there, maybe I'll open it up to everybody. But until then, please subscribe if you're new to the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment, let me know what you thought of this, and maybe you have follow-up questions. And if you do, I will try and answer them in the comments down below. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.